real familiar with urban terror. I haven't had a chance to get my head around it or anything. What exactly is urban terror as a mod?
Urban terror, actually, it started out as a map pack for Quake 3 back in December of 1999. And since that time, it's sort of grown. The project's gotten bigger. We've taken on more people, and it's basically turned into a total conversion. It's, you know, people compare it to Counter-Strike or Action Quake 2 if you came from the Quake community.
Okay.
It's a realism-based action mod.
Okay. Now, and you mentioned that people do compare it to Counter-Strike and Action Quake. What kind of differences are there between urban terror and those platforms?
Well, I think those people who don't play Quake, the first thing they'll notice about urban terror is speed. Speed is extremely fast. And I know we got some of the guys here who were playing last night.
Yes.
It's, I mean, you can straight jump like you can do in Quake 3, and coming from Counter-Strike, I mean, you have to carry a knife to run faster. In urban terror, everybody runs fast regardless of what weapon you carry. So that's probably the main difference. You get into some game mode differences. You know, we were talking about before this, the bomb mode for Counter-Strike been really popular. So we've decided to borrow from that game and a couple others and implement it. But for the most part, people continue to think that Counter-Strike is a realistic game, a realistic mod.
Right.
And you know, there's some other games that I would consider, like America's Army, very realistic.
Absolutely.
And you know, Counter-Strike and Quake 3, I guess, or excuse me, Urban Terror, pretty much similar, I think, when it comes to the genre. But after that, I mean, there are quite a few differences in terms of gameplay and how they were built.
Okay. Okay. Now, tell me what exactly is your role?
I'm the project coordinator and the public relations guy.
Okay. Okay. And when you're working with a mod, one of the things that I'm very, very curious about, what's it like to interact with the community that plays your game?
Now that I have some of them listening here,
Yeah.
you know, it's cyclical. It really is. Sometimes it's really good, and other times it's
Another shameless plug right there.
No, seriously, we have a really good community. I'm very pleased to be a part of this community, and they interact with the development team really well, and conversely, we do the same. I mean, we're usually available. We'll answer email. We're on ICQ, IRC. We post on the forums. We play every week. So the community really, you know, actually sees the development team sometimes as a gamer. I mean, we're not, you know, people picture us as like a high and mighty, oh, untouchable, this is Sid, you know, but that's not really the case. We like to get in and actually have a good time, and, you know, we do that on the side because, you know, we have our own little thing going as a development team, but when it comes to the community, I mean, you know, we're all about the community. I know we've stressed that for at least 2 years now, that, you know, everything we do with the community in mind.
Right, right. Now, is there ever a situation in the development of Urban Terror, and especially with the new release that you have coming out with the new beta, and hopefully we'll talk about that in a little bit, but is there ever a time where you feel like you can't please everybody, that somebody wants something? And
all the time. You cannot make everybody happy all the time.
Is that frustrating for you?
You will kill yourself trying.
What's the formula to overcome that hurdle?
You got to start out with your plan. The development team has a plan. This is what we want implemented. You implement that, you take it into some QA testing, and then the community will get to interact, and they say, okay, we don't like this. You know, maybe you should change this. You know, this could work differently. Weapons have been one of the biggest areas of contention. I mean, you can talk to 5 different people, and they'll tell you to do the weapon 5 different ways.
Right.
Well, you can't have the weapon 5 different ways. Well, you know, give us a C-bar. No, we're not going to give you a C-bar for it. That's our answer to everything. If they don't like something we do, well, make it a C-bar. No, we're not going to make it a C-bar.
Right.
But there is a formula, and I think actually we're still looking for that formula. I think once you Counter-Strike, I think, has that formula to a point when it comes to you know, the gameplay and how the weapons are set up. I think they did a good job. And I know that's been our biggest pet peeve is trying to get our weapons set, because you don't want to play a beta version for 4 months, and then 4 months later you get a new beta version and the weapons are all changed, and now you have to relearn the weapons, and you know, people get a little pissy at times because of that. But you know, you can't please everybody, and you know, we've finally given up trying to please everybody. I mean, you know, we take the clanners into consideration. We take the players who mainly pub, and then you take people like me who maybe play an hour a week, and you get a bunch of them all in there and try to satisfy them all, but you're not going to do it.
Right, absolutely.
too hard.
You have to maintain your sanity when you're doing that kind of work.
Oh,
Absolutely.
sanity's gone.
Well, one of the things I also want to ask you about, there's a lot of hubbub about 3.0, this new beta release. Can you give us any secrets about that?
Well,
Tell us
actually,
anything?
yeah, 3.0 actually started out as 2.7, and I don't know why we keep going up increment by increment. 2.0, 2.1, 2, 3, 4. And we got to 2.6, we had some problems with it, so we immediately released a patch for the beta. Go figure. I mean, that's another thing modders have to get over, is continually releasing betas. Now they're releasing alphas. It just, anyways. So we hit 2.6a, and we're going to release a B portion to that patch, which is going to deal with servers. Didn't get around to it, and the more we got into the development, we said, you know, let's just call it 2.7. And then a couple months ago, we said, well, you know what, we're so far along, let's just call it 3.0, because now it becomes a psychological thing.
Okay.
Now I'm giving away the secret, so everybody out there, I mean, yeah, we knew you did it this way. But, you know, it is, because if we released, say, a full version at 150 megs, you say 25 new maps, it's basically an all-new game, and you're calling it 2.7, people are going to say, well, you guys spent 6 months doing this, and this is terrible. So, you know, we call it Beta 3. I mean, people have been looking forward to Beta 3, and, you know, the round numbers get a lot of attention, Beta 1, Beta 2, Beta 3.
Right.
So we decided to call it Beta 3, and it's, like I said, really a new game. We have 25 new maps in it, well, new or updated maps, new skins, a couple new weapons. We have the IMI negative, which is a light machine gun, which is going to be interesting to see. I think that's going to be a big complaint from the community. They're not going to like how it plays. It's going to be the only weapon that you actually lose stamina. It's got encumbrance, so when you move, your stamina bleeds off. None of the other weapons do that.
Right.
But this one, because you have 150 round
Include
belt,
the landing.
I mean,
Right, it makes sense.
it's your big
Absolutely.
span weapon.
Yeah.
But we have new models, like I said, we have the new game mode, we have the bomb game mode, which, you know, if you want to say we took a Counter-Strike or Medal of Honor, I mean, it's a popular game mode, and our community has been asking for it for at least a year,
Right.
2 years.
Right.
So, you know, we finally got it in. We've actually been working on it for Beta 2, which came out in 2000, I think, 2001. And we just didn't have the resources at our disposal.
Right.
We just didn't have the maps, we just didn't have the manpower to do what we've done this time around for Beta 3. So, you know, like I say it every time too, Beta 3 is going to be the best release to date. And I mean, we've put a lot of time into it, and I mean, the team's just been outstanding. Our coders, we have 3 coders, 27 density and high C, who've just been amazing. I mean, 3 guys from 3 different countries. You have Canada, Australia, and New Zealand.
Wow.
And these guys, I mean, are on top of it, and it's just amazing.
That's
and,
awesome.
And then we get to our, you know, our artists and our modelers and skinners and blade killers are our main girl when it comes to that. She's just awesome.
That's great.
She kicks ass with the skins. She's running the QA team, and I mean that's anything. I don't want any part of that. I mean, I interact with the community enough, but listening to these guys, and you know, it's been a good time. They've been a lot of support for us when it comes to, you know, a cross section of the community. But I mean, it's just part of 3.0. It's going to be a big release. We're going to have a pre-release party for it. And, looking forward to it.
That's terrific. That's terrific. Well, since this is a roundtable discussion, I'm going to pass the mic over to. Does anybody have any questions about the new beta or about Urban Terror? Anything that you'd like to ask Oswald or comment? Turn this over to Everland's Everman here.
Hey, I've got a question from a logistical point of view. Being an event coordinator, I know what kind of work it is to organize an event. What's it like organizing a team that does not live in different cities but lives in different countries?
Well, communication is going to be your main. You have to have communication, and on top of communication, you have to have a plan. If you have those 2 things, then you've got the making for something successful. We didn't start out with a plan. I sort of came into it early on, but we didn't have a plan. I mean, you know, let's add this in there. So we added that. But trying to coordinate it now, I mean, now that we have a core group of people, the biggest challenge is just trying to keep everybody pushing forward and doing it, because we really get nothing out of this. I mean, we don't make any money off a mod. So I mean, you ask yourself, well, you guys have spent almost 3 years developing this mod. You know, well, what are you getting at? Well, I guess we get the satisfaction that we actually have a group of gamers out there who like what we do and like what we've made, but just trying to keep the drive going forward. Because I know Urban Terror doesn't pay the bills. And I mean, we got, you know, it sounds funny, but we got some guys, I mean, you know, you'll sit there, I do it myself, I'll sit there and spend 40 or 50 hours a week working on Urban Terror, and I'm like, languages. Sometimes he would say something, and you'd have to look at it, read it a couple times, thinking, okay, now is he upset because we did something, or is he mad at us? But you know, you talk to him and you get a clarification, or if you've talked to him before, you know what he's trying to convey. So I mean, the language barrier only really with German, because he's been really the only one who doesn't have English as his primary language.
Why not? I've done a little bit of communicating overseas, and I've also run into the time zone barrier, which is also just maddening at times. When you know that all of your problems can be fixed with a phone call. And,
you know, it's easy when you go from like the West Coast to the UK, but now you throw the international date line in there and go, okay, what time and what day is it in New Zealand? I'm even throwing Greenwich Mean Time up there, and okay, now you're adding on your fingers, okay, it's 18 hours tomorrow over there. But
anybody else?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Hey, I got a question. What made you decide to use the Quake 3 engine as opposed to, say, granted Counter-Strike has been already out there, how long? I think maybe 4 or 5 years or so, maybe roughly the same time as Urban Terror, maybe a little longer. With the UT platform that came out, what made you pick the Quake 3 engine upon which to base Urban Terror?
It was actually decided upon before I got there. The guy who started, his name was Bod Killer, and as I said, he basically didn't really want to make a mod, he just wanted to make a map pack, a realism map pack for Quake 3, and I mean, really the only, if you want to call it a realistic weapon in Quake 3 was the machine gun. So you would only have a machine gun, and you'd have, you know, realistic type setting, streets and offices, things like that. And that was sort of decided at that point. But when the team really started to pick up steam and we got more members involved, there was really a void left for the Quake 3 community. Everybody had Action Quake, and then the A team who did Action Quake decided to move to the Unreal Tournament engine because they thought that was going to be the next big engine. So that left a void for Quake. I mean, all the Quake players were sitting there playing Action Quake, and a lot of them actually moved over to Half-Life for Counter-Strike, and there was nobody there. So while the engine was actually chosen for us, I mean, we were just sort of in the right spot at the right time and took advantage of it. I mean, really there was, I don't want to say there was competition, because over the years, I mean, you know, there's been countless other realism mods, and you know, somebody will eventually come into our forums and say, oh, everybody's going to go away from Urban Terror and play such and such a mod. Okay, you know, competition's a good thing. I mean, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
I don't want to get myself in any trouble here.
No, it's like what you say. Without the competition, you know, you wouldn't be going through, you know, your beta 1 to your beta 2 to your beta 2.1, and you know, with all the upgrades, you know, the community feedback must be a tremendously wonderful thing for your project. You get to interact with the people who play your game. You get to make changes to please most, but obviously, as you said before, not all. It must be an extremely rewarding experience.
Well, competition sometimes it can get really brutal. I mean, you know, we're good friends with the guys who did Quake 3 Fortress, and they're now Splash Damage who did Enemy Territory. I've started talking to the guys who do a competing mod called True Combat, and we've been talking back and forth, but it's the communities who start to interact, and sometimes they don't see eye to eye about a feature, or how, you know, maybe Sid runs Urban Terror as opposed to how Team Terminator runs True Combat. And I know these guys are laughing because I never talk about True Combat. But you know, sometimes they'll get a little, there'll be a little bit of a battle between the communities, and sometimes that sort of interaction is really useless. It really is. I mean, it's just continuous arguments and bickering back and forth about who's got the best mod, and you know, your mod's going down, and yeah, I got, you know, bigger problems to deal with, and you know, this sort of crap going on. Yeah. But you're right. I mean, getting feedback from the community, it's just gotten better over the last, actually since 2.0. Community's just been outstanding. Can't say enough about them.
That's great to hear. Does anyone else have any questions? All right, I'll pass the mic over.
Pass the mic over. Feel free to introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm the Warlord. That's my handle. You said you've got the core team pretty much established and everything. You guys working on beta 3 and everything. Do you foresee like the core team expanding at all as maybe like the game picks up steam or something?
Well, right now, yeah, like I said, the team, you know, the door's never closed. I mean, if somebody came with us with some outstanding work, like for example, we did bring this guy who does bot AI, artificial intelligence, onto the team. He's a researcher down in Texas for the University of Texas, and he's got a grant or something. So he's actually working on artificial intelligence, and a lot of the training simulators today, what do they use? They use video games. The military is huge on this. So seeing as we have somewhat of a realistic environment in Urban Terror, he's using our game as a platform to do bot AI. So we're going to benefit out of that because we're going to get all his work and all his time he's put into it to make our bots work for Urban Terror. So it's sort of a twofold thing. But you know, that's just one example. I mean, he came to us, and we've had actually a few people come to us with, you know, hey, here's a model of a Mac 10. You guys want it? You can have it. Can I be on the team? And you sort of have to take some of those people with a grain of salt. I mean, you know, their heart's in the right place, but I mean, realistically, you can't take everybody who comes asking for a position. I mean, some people are doing, you know, some people have done it and they've actually gotten something out of it. I mean, we've had guys hired at Raven, at Bungie, 40 Rulers, and about one more. Or maybe not. But for them, it's been a stepping stone. So when they vacate, I mean, obviously, we're going to have to try to fill that vacancy somewhat. But even at this far along in the development stage, I mean, there's really not much that, well, I'm not going to say that because there's a lot we have to do, but it's really hard now to bring somebody who's new onto the team because the team interacts so well. And we're now using the community to help support, I mean, our development. I mean, we got people out there doing models for us, doing skins for us, they're doing our user interface for us. So it's, you know, well, we're the main development team. I mean, the community's really put a lot of, some of these guys have put a lot of time and effort, not only into helping the development team and the core game, but I mean, making maps, websites, things like that. So, I mean, it's like I said, a community effort, really, it is.
Cool. I had another question, but I can't think of it right now.
Oh, you're fired.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any other questions they'd like to ask?
We're paying you for this, you know.
9800?
What's up? My name's Evil, and I'd like to pick your brain about Beta 3, if you want to divulge anything. Is there going to be any type of like, I don't know, I've always been wondering, like a wall or a landmine, something to place
Explosives, yes.
explosives.
Chip mines.
Not really. We sort of ruled that out a while ago because the way we thought it would probably promote camping. I mean, you get a sniper who would take, I mean, he'd plant him at the end of a hallway. So now, obviously, unless you could defuse it somehow, I mean, somebody's going to walk by there and they're either going to die or set it off, so this guy's going to know you're coming. I mean, that's sort of one thing that I guess we use that quite often as our argument. No, we don't want that, it's going to promote camping. And, you know, we're trying to keep the speed of the mod up because that's how the Quake 3 community wants it. And, you know, that's our main core gamers there, so we try to listen to them and please them.
All right, and I was glad to hear about the addition of the bomb mode and the hopefully the better AI, because I've spent a couple days in Team Survivor having the bots defile my body.
Now the AI, the bot AI is not done. They're still working on it, and that's not going to be included in 3.0. That's probably going to end up being a separate pack file that we make available when he's finished with it. And we're not even sure because we run the game on what they call VMs, virtual machines. So Mac users and Linux users can also play the game. Whereas I think his name's Axon Misfire. I think he's possibly programming in DLLs, which are only specific for Windows platforms. So we might have some compatibility issues there. Bots might only be, used for PCs. I don't know. It's where we're lying. I just have to be able to explain it when I'm asked. You got to go to Silicon, go to our team site and just read his .plan, and you're like, huh, what's he talking about here? Because it's just amazing. I mean, the amount of work and time he's putting into this, it's just awesome. Just awesome.
All right, thank you.
Sure. Okay, any other questions or anything? All right, I've got a couple more I want to follow up with you on,
All right.
if I could.
Good wait.
Hopefully these are a little more enjoyable for you. In all the time that you've spent with Urban Terror, what's your favorite moment? What's the most memorable thing that you've accomplished in all the work you've done with Urban Terror?
Being invited to QuakeCon and checking out the id offices. I mean, seriously, meeting Robert Duffy and Graham Devine and Kevin Cloud and some of these guys who, you know, you consider, you know, game legends, game gods. Granted, we didn't see Carmack that day, but I mean, we got to, you know, we got to tour.
Saw him the next day.
Yeah, exactly. You know, we got to tour id Software, and you know, unfortunately, not everybody on the team got to do that. But
Right.
I mean, it was kind of cool being showcased by id Software at the premier Quake event at QuakeCon. Not to pin QuakeCon. Everland's cool too.
Very good.
But I mean, that's sort of, I guess that's sort of bad though, because that's sort of a personal thing. But for the team, just seeing the support we get on a release. I mean, I can't pick one out because I mean, Beta 2 was a great release. Granted, it had its problems once you know, you have all this build up to a release, and you know, the team's excited, the community's excited, they get something new, and then you know, 30 minutes after you release it, people are sending you messages saying, well, this sucks, this is broken, I don't like this. And that build-up suddenly goes,
Yeah.
and it drops.
Drops off.
But I mean, our last big release, I think it was 2.5, we had something like 900 people tuned in to the Urban Radio pregame show, and we had something like 1,400 people on 2 IRC channels, and it just basically blew our minds.
That's awesome. That's wonderful.
We were just like, wow, look at the support we're getting.
That's very cool.
Yeah, I mean, so that's one of the moments that the team really cherishes, I guess.
Lowest point in Urban Terror. What's been the most
Seeing people
toughest
leave,
moment?
seeing people that you really like to interact with, not only on an internet basis, but a personal level. Just one guy, his name was Dr. 8. He was one of our first coders. He's from Australia, and he's a good guy. I mean, he was working on his doctorate at the time in communication. So seeing the community actually transform from nothing into a core group of gamers, and then beyond is something that he actually used in real life for his thesis. And I went down there and visited him. He came up to LA and hung out. So this has been 2 years ago, but I mean I'm a friend. I mean that's one of the things. But a low point, like I said, just seeing people go who you really enjoy working with. And we all know that sooner or later it's going to happen. I mean, we're realistic about it. Urban Terror someday nobody's going to play it. I mean, the team will most likely dissolve, or the game will just be a has-been. Oh, I played that game back when. But just seeing that some of the people go that you've worked with for two or 3 years.
Yeah. And I guess that kind of leads into my next question is, where do you see Urban Terror going? And if it does kind of fade because of technology and new games and new weapons and so forth, do you see yourself latching onto a new mod, or where do you see that whole area going?
Well, personally, I was approached probably into last year by another group out of the U.S. who was doing some sort of I don't know if it was a real-time simulation game or what. They were in need of a PR project coordinator type person. Excuse me, and I said, yeah, I'm possibly interested. And at that time I really didn't know what we were going to do with Urban Terror. It might go somewhere, it might not. So I kept talking back and forth with this guy, and I said, I'm not going to do it. And I said, Urban Terror still got life. We got a team still dedicated. And I think at this time we had lost a coder. He had, I think, went to Raven, so we were sort of without a coder for like a 2-month period. And we're all looking at each other going, okay, who are we going to get? Because without a coder, you basically don't have a mod. I mean, not that they're the only person there, but I mean, if you don't have anybody who codes, I mean,
Absolutely.
You're really in a rut. So, but for Urban Terror, we've talked about becoming our own software studio. Maybe calling it Silicon Ice, I don't know. People have asked us if we plan on porting into a new engine, 2 engines. Well, the engine that comes up is the Doom 3 engine. You guys going to make it for Quake 4 or Doom 3? Right now, we don't know. It's too far out. Something just recently, and somebody actually asked it on the forums, and we sort of sidestepped the question, but I'll answer it now. Got an email from id Software, Kevin Cloud contacted us and asked us if we're interested in porting it for Return to Castle Wolfenstein's Enemy Territory. Because if you know, or maybe you don't know, Enemy Territory is a standalone game. So Urban Terror could actually be its own standalone game. You wouldn't need Quake 3, you wouldn't need a CD key. It's got Punk Buster. So when it comes to that, I mean, we're like, you know, this would be very cool. I mean, this would be something good for the team. We would have our own standalone game. But on the flip side, you look at it, it's like, well, now we're going to have to port everything. Granted, it's still the Quake 3 engine. It's Wolfenstein. There's many upgrades in the engine, as I was talking to some of the guys from Splash Damage who actually got to play with the source code. But it would probably realistically take us 12 to 14 months to do it, and like I said earlier, Urban Terror doesn't pay the bills.
Yeah.
And we just, some of the guys, some of the girls just can't put that amount of time into it if they're not going to see something out of it. And, you know, some of us have other jobs. I mean, I got a 40-hour-a-week job. Blade Killer's got a 40-hour-a-week job. So, I mean, some of us are, you know, doing this on our free time as a hobby. And, yeah, I mean, sure, we love the interaction. We like working with each other and hanging out with the community. But we're not really sure what we're going to do next. I mean, right now we're dead set on actually getting a version release of Urban Terror out. Not that that's going to be the final version, but we'll be happy when it's just Urban Terror, and not Urban Terror Beta 3 or Beta 2 point whatever.
Right.
So that's one of our goals that we're still reaching for.
Sounds excellent. Any last comments or messages that you have for the community that plays for you? Anything for the gamers that love Urban Terror so much?
Well, I'll get one of them out of the way, and I'm surprised it wasn't asked. Everybody wants to know when the release date is, and we're probably 1 or 2 days away from our code freeze. So after we get the code freeze, no more changes. We're basically just going to play it out, test it, and if there's any bugs, we're going to fix it from that point on. So it's going to be released before QuakeCon, which is obviously August, but most likely before the end of July. We're still working on the date. I can't give the exact date, but July, there's only, what, 24 days remaining, so.
Clock's ticking.
So yeah, I mean, you're probably within 3 weeks of a release, and I mean, once we announce it, it'll be on our websites, and I'll probably get back into doing urban radio and start the PR machine rolling, as I like to say. But last things, just the community. Like I said, it's been amazing just seeing a game, you know, and the way we track it would be on GameSpy stats. We'd always look at our stats. Oh, look at this, we got 50 servers and 40 people playing. Then you look at the #1 log going, you know, someday we're going to be there. And, you know, it's been a long ride and a lot of work, a lot of effort. Many people have helped out, both on the team and throughout the community. And, you know, now I think we've achieved a point where, you know, we're very happy. We're excited, you know, what we've made. And we have a very strong community, both in North America and in Europe, and you know, basically all we want to say is thank you for playing our game, and you know, hopefully it lives up to all your expectations. Very cool, very cool. Well, Oswald, I certainly want to very much thank you for your time. It has been an honor and a privilege, and